Hello, I'm Adriana Binti Adnan from TBA 1143E, and today I'll be making an oral commentary on a movie called Unbroken. Unbroken was initially released on 25th December of 2014 in the United States. This movie was directed by one of my favorite actresses, Angelina Jolie. Unbroken is based on a non-fiction book written by Laura Hillenbrand, which took place back in World War II, 1939 to 1945. In other words, Unbroken is a historically accurate movie with scenes that match the past incidents. The genres of this movie, as you can see here, are war, biography, drama, action, and sports. Now let us move on to the plot of Unbroken and the main characters throughout the movie. Louis Zamperini, the main protagonist, who was played by Jack O'Connell, is the son of Italian immigrants living in the United States. During his childhood, he was often bullied by peers of his age and had bad habits such as drinking liquor, smoking, and stealing. He later joined a running team due to his brother's Pete Zamperini encouragement, who was played by Alex Russell, and became an Olympic runner in 1936. During World War II, Louis served in the military as a bombardier. While out on a rescue mission with his comrades, he suffered a plane crash in the Pacific Ocean. He survived the crash along with Russell Phillips, the pilot, played by Domhnall Gleeson, and Francis McNamara, played by Finn Wittrock, who was in charge of the flag. Louis and his two comrades were adrift for 45 days on the raft. They struggled to stay alive as there were hardly any food or drinkable water. Mac sadly passed away after a few weeks adrift. Louis and Phil were then discovered and captured by the Japanese Navy, who sent them to the prisoners of war camp. Unfortunately, Louis and Phil were separated during the process of camp transferring. Louis was physically and mentally abused by the main antagonist, Mutsuhiro Watanabe, played by Miyavi, who is a sadistic prison guard that finds pleasure in torturing the prisoners of war. The part when the conflict reaches the highest point is when the prisoners of war knew that the Allies were about to win World War II and they overtake Japan, but they also were aware that if the Allies win the war, the Japanese will execute all of the prisoners of war in the Hokura River. As a matter of fact, the Allies did win the war, which only meant one thing. It was the end for the prisoners of war. They were gathered by the Japanese and were invited to bathe in the Hokura River. Louis knew what it actually meant, but by good luck, at the last minute, they were spotted by an Allies aircraft. This stopped the Japanese from firing at the prisoners of war. The resolution of the movie is that the prisoners receive daily supplies from the Allies until they are brought home. Louis returned to his homeland and reunited with his family. He also then returned to Japan to make peace with his former captors. After years of battling PTSD, Louis decided to run again in the Olympics at the age 80 in Japan. I would rate this movie a 9 out of 10. To start with, I chose this movie because it has always been my go-to movie whenever I need some comforting and motivation, as this movie made me feel like I was a part of the journey to victory along with the characters after all the complications and the obstacles. Secondly, the cinematography of the movie is breathtaking and the screenplay makes me hooked with the inspiring words from the characters. With that being said, here is my favorite scene along with my favorite quote from the movie.
This is so dumb.
Since when were you so smart? Come on, faster.
Why? No one's chasing me.
I'm chasing you.
Can't do this, Pete. I'm not like you. I'm nothing. Just let me be nothing.
What are you talking about?
I can't make a track team. I didn't even know why you
Yes, you
want me
can. If you can take it, you can make it.
What?
If you can take it, you can make it. All right, you train, you fight way harder than those other guys, and you win. You get out from under them. Or you keep going the way you're going and you end up as a bum in the streets. You can do this, Lou. Just gotta believe you can.
I don't believe.
I do. Come on. Andiamo. Forza!
If you can take it, you can make it. When you are immersed in the movie as much as I am, you can feel the depth of the advice that Pete gave to Louis and how much it inspired him to always strive for the better, which in a way made me feel like Pete was encouraging me as well. When no one believed in Louis, even he admitted himself that he is nothing, Pete had always believed in him and hoped for the best for his little brother. I realized that even with the smallest words of encouragement to someone, it can literally change one's life to be a whole lot better. If I were to state the lessons that I got from watching this movie, it would be endless. As a matter of fact, these scenes were all inspired from an actual story that did happen a very long time ago. Just thinking about how difficult it must have been for Louis Zamperini and how he survived a stomach-churning experience in the war makes me believe that there are no hardships that we cannot overcome. He starved for days while stranded in the middle of the ocean and was brutally abused on multiple occasions, but he remained optimistic. Louis won it all by simply staying strong until the end. This movie taught me that it is all about the mindset as well as having faith that everything will sort out in the end. Again, here I quote, "If you can take it, you can make it." I agree with this phrase as it has taught me to never run away from my problems, to only move forward and face them. Unbroken has also taught me that forgiveness is the key to happiness and freedom. It is true that forgiving someone who has done you wrong is hard. I couldn't agree less. But if we take a look at the main character, Louis, he lived a hopeless life during the war days and received an inhuman treatment from the Japanese. But he knew that to fully overcome his post-traumatic disorder and to completely free himself from the vile experience, he has first to forgive those who hurt him in the past. It must have been hard to do so, I bet. But he still managed to return to Japan to reconcile with his former captors. His act of forgiveness taught me that everyone deserves a second chance. It is only human to accept that one can and will change for the better, and all we need to do is forgive them. By doing this, we are no longer dwelling on the past and not letting our traumas haunt us. Moving on to the strengths and weaknesses of this movie, it is safe to say that I find more strengths in the movie compared to the weaknesses. It is a tearjerker movie that never fails to make me sympathize with those who were affected by the war, as the movie projected the incidents magnificently. It makes the viewers realize that there are unknown soldiers fighting the hardest battles, and all should not be forgotten. This movie touches all aspects of life, which is deeply inspiring to those who watch it. I hate to say this, but the one weakness that I can say about this movie is that it lacks the gruesome setting that should have been portrayed. In other words, the movie was too pretty to describe the events of World War II, and it only showed a small glimpse of the torture that the prisoners of war had to go through. If I was given the opportunity to change parts of the movie, it would be the scene where Louis Zamperini was offered to be released from the camp if he agreed to appear on the Japanese radio and broadcast wrong information on the United States. He refused the offer as he would not betray his country just to escape the tormenting experience at the prisoners of war camp. To persuade Louis Zamperini, the Japanese then showed him a group of American soldiers who accepted the offer and were living luxuriously. In this scene, I totally disagree with the disloyalty of the American soldiers who betrayed their comrades and their own country selfishly to survive. I feel it is important to change this part of the movie because while those betrayers are eating good food, getting a good night's sleep, their comrades are brutally abused and starved to death every single day. I believe the only way to win the war is to stick together and have loyalty towards your own country. Soon after, Louis Zamperini was brought back to the camp, which infuriated Watanabe as Louis did not accept the offer. Watanabe said, "No respect, no order," then made all prisoners at the camp punch Louis once in the face. I would change this bit of the movie as I disagree with the way Watanabe demanded respect when he himself had no respect for the prisoners of war. Watanabe preached about things he himself did not practice and made the prisoners of war hurt an innocent man for upholding his principles. I believe that respect should be earned, not demanded. I also disagree with Watanabe's method of teaching the prisoners of war to have respect, which is by beating them up. By doing this, it will not implement respect but fear within the prisoners of war. Thus, his approach is brutal and does not work. That is all for my oral commentary. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day.